I think of my grandfather's time of, hammering away on a piece of metal.
That's not where we are today. It's actually living and actualizing physics in their everyday life.
What is the one thing that scares you that's coming down the pipe?
I think they don't understand the scarcity of talent that's coming. We're trying to replace a lot of brain power that has retired, and yet we have the smallest generation coming into the workforce right now. We have to commit to people development. It must be a strategy. Create the opportunities for a young man who knows how to drive a forklift to one day be a backup supervisor. It's that you can affect the change in people's lives in ways that you don't know.
Does everybody in advanced manufacturing have to have an engineering degree now?
I don't think that companies understand how much they need to be embracing technology. We don't know what the tech's going to look like in a couple of years.
Yes.
People don't like change, and this is a lot of change happening really fast.
I'm here with my special guest today, Vice President of Human Resources at McElroy, Steve Caldwell. And I'd love to just start with, when I think about manufacturing, and McElroy is known for, advanced manufacturing, that, I think of my grandfather's time of, hammering away on a piece of metal, right? And that's what manufacturing jobs are. I don't think that's the case anymore. And we were just talking a little bit about how cool or how different manufacturing has evolved to. Let's move from banging on hammers to pushing buttons. Um, Tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that evolution that you're talking about, many people still think of manual machines, with a machinist turning a crank and using trigonometry as they to interpret their blueprints. Um, that's not where we are today. There's a lot more technology. Um, the positions that we have or we see in that realm are ones that are really the technology the individuals are having to figure out is how to talk to machines, they'll have to learn 4 or 5 languages to interact with the different machine tools they might interface with on any day. It's advanced. It's actually living and actualizing physics in their everyday life. There's material science that comes into play, metallurgy, all these pieces that they need to interact with in order to actually complete a part. Also, because these machines are mostly computers, these environments have to be clean and they have to be climate controlled. These machines don't do well in really hot weather or really cold weather.
Right.
So, but those changes have really come in, and that has changed the environment in itself that we can't even imagine it.
It
40
sounds
years
like,
ago.
it sounds like the skills have dramatically changed as well, right? So I guess the question is, does everybody in advanced manufacturing have to have an engineering degree now?
No. These are the same. mm, uh, we're really looking at the same pool of people. These are folks with high school, maybe some tech training, but they're not going to college. They're going to make great money.
Mhm.
They've got skills that travel. So they need machinists all over the place. So you leave a job in that realm, then you can go, somebody's going to need a machinist somewhere, especially if you can do precision manufacturing or advanced manufacturing. You think about the difference between a college degree. Some of those people can't be passionate about what they get. A journalism degree, it's wonderful, but what are you passionate about? These are young people that find their passion, and by the time they're moving through their mid-20s, they've really mastered a lot of things, and they can move to different industries, or they can stay in one place.
Hmm. So how do you manage that from a, to me it sounds like we talk a lot about learning agility, right? New machines are coming out, new buttons to push, new technologies every quarter at least, right? Um, how do you keep your staff up to speed, or how do it's also difficult because more companies are coming in. These people are high value, so they're getting poached. So retention is always a challenge. How do you ensure that the line doesn't stop because someone just disappeared or went to another company for, 30% more salary? How do you this whole change of ecosystem around that? How do you manage that?
Well, that agility that you're talking about is difficult to manage, b but you're constantly training. Somebody's gotta be working, somebody's gotta be developing. The way we put the technology in front of them, as you mentioned, the new tech comes out. We have a group of programmers that go to a trade show every 2 years, and of course, then they'll see the latest and greatest, and we'll have to get one. Not really, but we will, and they come out with tech on them. The programming allows them to do one other thing that it's never been available, that's gonna save somebody time and make their job better. Takes out the mundane. Um, and, this crew feeds us, all that information. They're the programmers, like, as I mentioned, so they're on top of all these languages, but then they have to share that knowledge. We
Mhm.
have to collaborate a whole lot. That wasn't always the case in a manufacturing shop. You went to your one spot, you stood there,
Sure.
you did
Mhm.
your thing. You can't do that today. You've gotta be able to collaborate and move to the work or know that you've got a problem in different ways. When we look at some of those missing characteristics that sometimes you find in workforces, that you've got to have curiosity and critical thinking in these jobs. You've got to be able to look at something and in 3D space in your imagination while you're looking at the physics of what this machine's going to do to that part. What could happen? Is it in the right spot? Um, and do you have the right tooling coming at it? So what's it made out of? So you don't did you pick the right hardness of
Mhm.
whatever you're doing? So there's a lot in that piece, with I think as we look at the, training them for the retention side, because if they always feel developed, people feel like they're developing, they're not looking for other work. They feel like they're growing and it's meeting people where they are.
Right. No, it's this concept of, talent scarcity, right? It's no longer about, you know, finding that special talent outside, but you also have to build it internally, right? And then you have to pair that with the fact that, people are not looking only for the next higher salary, right? And they're not, and loyalty doesn't mean anything anymore in
Right.
organizations, right? They want something in return, right? What is that something in return? Is it mobility? Is it salary? Is it, what is, especially with the new generation of talent that's coming through, we see some slight differences there.
I think it's the idea that your culture is one where people get to move to new things. They're not stuck in one spot. We have used what we call the grind shop, which is precision grind, is kind of that launching spot for
Right.
a new machinist. They start there, and then might be 6 weeks, it might be 6 months, it might be 3 years, but they're going to come out of that place and they're going to be moved to a CNC machine center, and then they'll learn that machine center. Then they'll migrate to a more difficult machine center. And the people see growth and they see other people moving. I mean, one of my favorite stories is a young man who came to us and he had worked in a printing company. They printed uh, inserts for newspapers in those days. And he was the material handler that moved rolls of paper, giant rolls of paper and ink. And he came to work for us, started basically in a deburr position, just,
Mm.
sanding parts. Today he's a full-blown machinist, and he is working often as the backup lead on a night shift. So he's got leadership now, and he's also a machinist.
Right.
His life is immensely changed, but that was because all he needed was an opportunity,
Right.
and he needed a place where he could initiate those kinds of changes, or he could take advantage of those changes and grow his skill set. And we've got dozens of stories. We have positions called specialists, and those specialists, they're CNC specialists. They are the ones who are moving around to the more difficult machines when another machinist is having trouble, maybe a newer person, to help them problem solve, troubleshoot. And all of those people started either in Deber or on a small
Mm,
machine center. So when I have dozens of these stories now. We have a few hundred employees in these roles, but this history goes back before I even joined the company.
sure.
Is that idea of development?
Yeah.
It's got to be part of the culture in the business.
Yeah. I've had a number of discussions. Culture always comes up culture eats strategy for lunch. You hear about that, and and we have to define the culture and make sure that right people fit in, and a lot of times that is a good retention tool, right? They want to be in that environment. They want to be part of the culture. If we think about, obviously, there's a lot of manufacturing companies that are setting up shop in Tulsa. There's others that have been here a number of years, different generations that are continuing to grow. The talent pool that we're working to build out in Tulsa for what we call, broadly advanced manufacturing. Um, Cross training is super important because, as you said, machines change.
Mhm.
You don't want to have someone who's only knows how to do this language or this sort of machine, but they have to have flexibility and so forth. How do you see the response? What is the responsibility of you as an organization for skill development versus a responsibility of an education organization, whether it be a Tulsa Tech, a TCC, an OSU, a TU, any education institution versus what you should be providing? How do you see that dynamic?
I think for us, we we look at that agility or that that type of training that's more specialized. We're gonna have to find a way to do it. We have to commit to it. We have to commit to people development. It must be a strategy. I mean, as I mentioned in our conversation earlier, you know, a problem with industry as a whole is that we're just trying to get jobs done, and we don't let our leaders that are really enacting the product, the production, to think like a coach, to really treat their crew like a sports team. So they have that next person up to move into a critical spot. I'm not saying to hire 5 extra people to sit on the bench. It's not at all what I'm saying, but it's to make sure that you've got the cross training and the collaboration and that you've got the thinking ingrained in it. But that means that you have to commit to development. Committing to development means that it's got to be important enough that people get time to do it.
Mhm.
And it's not just about meeting a production schedule, it's about meeting a production schedule
Okay.
and so it's not an or, but an and. Now, not advocating for pulling people off machine centers. It's the same time that it's productive work, but it's developmental. And, there's a lot of tools out there, right now. I just, learned from one of our managers that we're using a technology that didn't exist 4 months ago. That technology is AI vision, and what that does at a machine center, so for somebody who's new to a work center, if they had put a part in and do the setup, AI vision looks at that, sees if they've done it correctly, and if
Mhm.
they haven't, it tells them. It also, within seconds, has pulled up what we used to call a blueprint, but now it's a 3D rendering
Right.
on a computer screen, and then it pulls up the program for them to make sure that it and tells them what step they need to be in, and it helps them get that done, and then it'll do then send the first article
Mhm.
measurements. And those are the places where when mundane work happens that people get distracted, they're listening to music or something,
Yeah.
and mistakes happen, and it just makes a machinist's job better.
Mm.
It's a different way to use technology, and I think that is part of it. Another story that comes to mind, I was having a different conversation, and this actually came to us through a machine tool salesperson, is that when you talk about Tulsa and its talent pool, that this person has a sales territory from St. Louis out to Arizona, just north of Kansas down to the tip of Texas, and the the advanced CNC equipment that they're selling, the advanced stuff, is mostly to, by far, Tulsa and Oklahoma City. So
Mm.
this little belt is
Interesting.
here. So, you know, advanced machinists or people that want that career, there's more organizations that are gonna have to figure out how they do some of this development and how we better partner with, any of the tech programs to create more customized
Right.
content, even if it's short term. And honestly, those tech centers, their teachers, their instructors, they need the exposure because the tech schools
Like,
cannot afford to
yeah.
buy the equipment. So that we need them to have the exposure so they can help us continue to develop the next round of talent.
How is that relationship? Because I don't see necessarily employers or corporates having significant conversations or meaningful conversations about new technologies and need versus yes, you'll get the corporate development, corporate sales guy from all the vocational schools and all the universities coming out to try to sell their programming, right?
Right.
That's normal. There's a job for somebody, that's what they're doing, right? But real conversations say, okay, Steve, what are you facing and what gaps can we fulfill for you, and having that collaboration. Does that happen? Should it happen?
It absolutely should, but in again, in McElroy's case, we've had a presence in those programs.
Okay.
So we're going there, whether that's a machinist or a machine specialist, and then talk with CNC
Mhm.
specialist, or even our programming manager or one of the programmers. We have somebody going out there and meeting with them as regularly as we can. And because of that relationship, and it's an intentional relationship, that as we've had technology changes or we see skill changes that need to happen, we can talk to them about it,
Right.
and it comes straight from people who are actually doing it to those instructors, and they have modernized their curriculum because of the input we've given them, which makes their students a better fit.
Hmm.
So they're motivated to do that because it helps with placement. Yeah, so I think you've got to do that. I think industry, if you are a manufacturer, not that I want any more competition, but if you're a manufacturer, or somebody who uses the trade schools and programs, the tech programs, that you've got to have a way to make time for that. And it's got to be long term and deliberate. And we started this effort back in 2011.
Okay.
So it's been
Yeah.
14 years, 15
Where's
years.
the gap?
The skill gap.
Yeah.
Um, I think that they can't be agile enough with the technology. They can't they can't afford it. And obviously to buy the latest
Sure.
greatest CNC machine. I think that's and they're handicapped in that respect.
So does that then responsibility stay with you, with the corporates, with the employers?
I think it's a partnership
Okay.
that we've had some success with these where we have one of their instructors come out and create some content for us on new equipment,
Mhm.
and then actually lead training on some of this cutting edge stuff. And that in itself creates that relationship because now the instructor wants to work,
Yeah.
produce stuff. We actually had an instructor from one of the programs who had a break between semesters and asked if he could just come work on a temp assignment to get familiar with the equipment that we
Interesting.
have.
Okay.
But that kind of relationship doesn't we wouldn't have that
Yeah.
relationship if he hadn't been doing these other projects with us.
Mhm.
So it's being present. The other Some of the other gaps, I think we don't even know where they're coming from because they're going to happen so quickly. I do think I mentioned critical thinking
Yeah.
earlier
Mhm.
and applied curiosity. I think that we don't enhance that enough or reinforce that enough in school at all. I think we're so busy working towards a rubric or
So
whatever.
how do you so is that done then through after school clubs, or obviously I'm starting to learn a lot about education. It's not my background, as you know, but we can't in a company. It's if you want to change something, you just change it, right? It's for the need. If there's a proper rationale, maybe you have to put together a business case or so forth, right? Even with the business case, the rationale, and all the evidence, sometimes education cannot move at the speed of business, right? It takes time. So, what are ways that you've seen that work to kind of drive that curiosity skill that is required, or that um, mindset that we're looking for? Is it an after school club program or
And I know this is a broad generalization, and I don't know that it's all disappeared, but it sometimes it feels like people don't want to own
yeah,
the
okay.
own whatever that is, own their behavior, own
Mm.
the uh, their job. They want it's an ownership piece, and I think, but now no one's given them permission to own. Maybe I don't have it in.
It's funny because someone said to me, and it's a parallel, but it's not exactly direct, but they were saying that with today in today's world, people don't want to own anything. They don't want to own a car because they can just use Uber. They don't want to own a house because they can go Airbnb, whatever they want, right? So, and even those organizations don't own hotels and they don't own cars, right?
Yeah.
Right. But this ownership or somewhat accountability, the lacking of accountability, is typically said to be a durable or soft skill, but is missing significantly in the workplace today. Um, and we're hearing this across even the educators are starting to understand that, and they're trying to adjust and adapt to that. But if you think about, the different organizations that you've worked with, and you've worked across the spectrum, of business and across different industries, what is the one thing that scares you that's coming down the pipe in the future that organizations are maybe not yet prepared to embrace?
That's a I don't even know where to begin there, but it just scares me. Um, you know, I think that they don't understand the scarcity of talent that's coming. That's the big one
Mhm.
because we're all fighting for the same resources, whatever that may be, but we're trying to replace a lot of a lot of brain power that has retired or is about to
This
retire,
whole kind of aging out.
aging out, right? We're gonna have that. And yet we have the smallest generation coming into the workforce right now. That uh, so I don't think that companies understand how much they need to be embracing technology. I don't think AI is replacing that many jobs. I think it's enhancing a lot of them.
Right.
I and I could be wrong. I'm no forecaster by any means, but I think it's enhancement. People will go faster. They'll do things, and all that will do is help business mature faster and change. And with that, we don't understand in 2030 how much difference it is. Right now, as we were talking about earlier, we have new tech rolling out every quarter that's impacting things. So we don't know what the tech's going to look like in a couple of
Yeah.
years, and
No, it's it.
how deeply it's into things. If you think about
Yeah.
your car 10 years ago didn't have near the touchscreen capability that it has
Right.
today, or the number of touchscreens. I'm sure. I don't know about yours, but
Yeah.
mine sure is large, and that's just the way that those things have evolved. And I don't see that slowing down.
No, and I think how to teach or how to prepare people for that is gonna continue to be a challenge, right? Um,
Well, people don't like change,
yeah,
Lawrence, and they
correct.
just don't
Yeah,
like change. And this is a lot of change happening really fast. And how do we get comfortable with that? How do we make that as part of this?
right.
As part of this their daily existence at work?
Yeah. There's this dichotomy where businesses are requiring people to have fluency in these tools. AI tools, right?
Mm.
For example, I have a job that I'm posting for my organization. I just went through job description and I added in as a requirement that I want them to have fluency in using at least one of these AI tools, whether it be ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. I want them to Claude. I want them to be able to use that because the I don't want them to be focusing on the busy work that they can use an AI tool to do. I want them to be able to utilize critical thinking, as you said, to kind of say, okay, analyze what the output is telling them, and then give me a recommendation, and we can build something out of that, right? But on the other side, a lot of education institutions are banning the use of AI, right? My both my brother-in-law and sister are educators, high school educators, and I'm having this constant discussion with them saying, why are you not allowing the kids to use AI? And it's kind of like when we were kids, they would say, "Oh, don't get used to using a calculator because you're never going to have a calculator with you all the time."
Yeah, yeah. Yes,
Hello, we have a calculator with us all the time,
yes,
right? So,
yes.
utilizing a tool is important. Being able to incorporate these tools is important. I'm not saying that yes, there are going to be people who take advantage of it and try to cheat and say, okay, well, they're going to write their whole essay using the tool. You can catch that, right? But I don't mind if someone is using a tool to write an essay as long as they're adding their critical thinking points and having that conversation with the tool,
Mhm.
asking the right questions, asking the right prompts. But unless they're using it in school, they're never going to become experts in it. They're never going to learn that, right? So I don't know how to bridge that gap in a way of company needing that as a requirement, but some education institutions not wanting that to be a tool for them to use.
Uh, it's back to agility in that respect,
Yeah,
and accepting what the technology is doing around you. There are ways to have rules around this stuff and teach kids, I think, to do it. I have, as you know, I have a student at university, and they're in an MIS major, and they are actually encouraged to use
hmm
AI their as part of their coursework. Now, to an extent, right? They still have to prove that the overall product is theirs, but they might use it for to pick up some coding or to fix some coding that's they've got a bug to help debug. And the idea being to help them be ready because they're seeing at that level, at least they're seeing that we're expecting that when you get out, to some extent in professional positions, that you've gotta be able to do it like you're using it. I think that's not uncommon,
hmm
uh, at least in my experience, and how much can you get done? I mean,
right,
you when earlier you asked about other things we do for retention. Sometimes you gotta get past your usual stuff and about the employee development and other pieces, but we went through a whole benefits modernization effort this last year. Because we really wanted to be just more than competitive in that arena, and that was our choice. And but to do that, we had to go to RFP, start with the broker, and in that, I used a lot of chat tools or whatever
sure,
chatbots
hmm
to help with that because I'm no expert in writing an RFP for
right,
an insurance broker. It had a lot of my work in it,
hmm
but I needed somewhere to start,
yeah,
and it saved me days, if not weeks, of effort that I wouldn't get I'm not gonna outsource to somebody else because it's
right.
my I'm accountable for it. I need to own it, and understanding that from the get-go, back to and it's different. I'm not talking about generations, but I think in our own daily work, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, we have to find ways to do that.
So with all of these changes, challenges, you talked about one challenge that you had to, the whole day today and this week that you're working on that you're working through. So we talked about what keeps you up, so to speak, at night,
Yeah.
right? What gets you out of bed? I mean, are you still, I mean, you've been in HR a long time and
Yeah.
you've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah.
The role has changed a lot from when HR was, you know, human resources.
Right. Yeah.
What is it today? And what keeps you excited about it?
I think it's the fact that I know I get to go to work every day and affect change for the good for a workforce. That there's people out there that because of the programs that we continue to enhance and develop,
hmm
create the opportunities for a young man who knows how to drive a forklift to one day be a backup supervisor and a machinist at night.
Right.
It's that you can affect the change in people's lives in ways that you don't know, but it's because you create this environment of that you enhance
Right.
lives. It's those policies and practices that we've had, um, that you've also created a culture. At least we've tried to create a culture where HR isn't a police force;
Sure.
it's a collaborative unit with our leaders. I'm a business partner. I'm not with my VPs.
Right.
I'm I'm with my peers. I sit there and I go to their offices and I ask them that we have meetings to figure out what do I need to do or my team need to do to make your team function better.
Mhm.
So I think that keeps me going because years ago the police forcing thing, oof, I hated that. Just policy enforcement.
Yeah, no, that's horrible. That's horrible, and that's a role that I didn't like seeing anywhere, anywhere in the
Right.
world. It's the same. Every HR leader, they had a component of the job of that. There's always that
Yeah.
compliance piece, right? But most HR don't do that job to do that.
Right.
It's just kind of one of those requirement
Right.
pieces.
Yeah, I've mentioned I didn't seek HR, I kinda fell into it,
Sure.
and
Uh-huh.
so that I found a way to have a career and have a place that I get to go every day. I've got a great team of people that I get to work with, and I look forward to watching them grow and develop because 'cause they're doing that, and that's the other piece, and you get I see the feedback just from their performance, it's feedback to me.
Sure. Of course.
So,
Awesome. Well, Steve, every time we talk, I enjoy our conversations. I feel like I learn and I walk away a little bit smarter. I'm sure the audience has felt the same. So thank you for taking the time. Look forward to further conversations.
me too. Lawrence, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Great afternoon.
Yep. Awesome.